So let's get right into the
Look
hardware.
at that segue!
I know. So let's talk about the Steam box, specifically the Zotac Steam box.
Zotac.
Whatever, Zotac. Sorry, I misspelled.
So good. I only know because I've bought their hardware before. Not the Steam box, but other stuff.
Fine. Zotac.
I feel better now, thank you.
There you go.
So, Zotac, so basically to reverse a little, so I guess it was about 3 years ago, actually, Steam came out with the Steam OS, which is basically a overlay on it can be Windows, but specifically in this case Linux, to basically have a different view of your operating system.
Right.
And so in the last year or so, they're starting to be in production versions of the Steam box. At its heart, the Steam box is Linux, which runs this magical, mythical Steam overlay. One of the issues, even before what we're talking about specifically here, is the hits to performance. The main problem is that AMD and NVIDIA, they just don't give a shit about Linux kernels when it comes to their drivers, let's be honest.
Right.
So there's already been, a pretty solid performance hit across the tree as far as the Steam box goes. Now, the problem that you're having with the Zotac is there have been reported issues with people hooking up monitors and basically getting weird, funky artifacts going on. And then people are going like, oh, hey, let's just change our resolutions. Maybe something funky is happening. Well, first off, you cannot change the resolution with the actual Steam OS overlay.
No.
Okay, let's go to Linux and try changing it there. No, there's no easy way to change it with every weird Linux kernel they're using. You basically have to go start pulling up Nano and Pico and doing crazy stuff that most people really aren't going to spend the time doing. And the big issue with this is it's coming like that straight out. It's not like it's, down the road or you're doing an upgrade. No, this is like out of the box hardware where you hook it up the first time and it's having funky hardware issues. And I think, that's one of the big issues with the Steam box. And so like the Zotac specifically has really actually pretty damn good hardware. It has like a GTX 960, which is about a $200 graphics card, give or take sales. Good processor, so it's a box which absolutely should be able to play video games. But then you start throwing in the Linux aspect, you start throwing in the Steam OS. It's kind of like, what is the point of the Steam box? Why don't you just do like the Alienware does and just throw your damn Windows on it and install Steam? Is really what it comes down to. Like, what is the advantage of using the Steam OS with the underpinnings of Linux over just having Windows and installing Steam?
Well, okay, so here's the dream scenario that everyone thought that the Steam box was going to do, and that was it was basically going to take all.
Alex Hawk 31.
I know.
You have a Steam box?
No, she doesn't have a Steam box. She's just saying hi.
Hi, Alex Hawk.
The dream scenario when it came to Steam box is that you were going to hypothetically have this system that was going to get rid of all this. Oh, sorry, man.
Damn you! Internet.
That would get rid of all the extra crap. Okay, for like Windows has all that bloated stuff.
It's just a gaming
and so
device.
you could streamline it and do really quick. The unfortunate thing is, it's not that. And my grand issue with the Steam box is, and I will repeat myself, it's a fucking computer.
But that's the thing.
I can plug my computer in. I don't have to buy any additional hardware. I just plug my computer in and it works.
But that's what Steam is like. They're trying to straddle that line between
a PC and a console.
They are, and yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. And that's one of the beautiful things about a console is, for all the shit that, Xbox and PlayStation, we have legitimately got is, guess what? You plug it in and it works.
Exactly. But
then you get to the Steam box and it's like, it may or may not work. And that should be one of the dangers of buying this put together device.
Well, the thing is, okay, let's clear something up. It's not that the Steam box doesn't work. It's just that it doesn't work well. You can play games on it. It's just going to look like shit.
Yes.
There's a very good chance that, specifically the Zotac box, one of the reviewers tried to put one of the Bioshocks on there, and he said that the graphics got even worse once he started playing the game because he thought, oh, maybe there's an issue with the actual dashboard of the Steam OS. Let's jump into a game that's supposed to look amazing, and apparently was like trying to play it on a really old computer.
Now, I guess the question is, because Steam box the Steam Box specifically is still in its infancy, relatively speaking. So I'm wondering if we're talking about today. Do you think potentially, I'm talking like 5 years down the road,
Right.
does Steam Box, do you think, have a legitimate place in a gamer's household down the road, like taking the long view? Do you think it'll get to that point where it's a viable option for PC gamers?
No.
Okay. You don't think these issues are going to be resolved, or there's just no legitimate reason to get it over just buying a gaming PC with Windows? Is that what it comes down to?
That Steam Box will always be comparable to a PC in price point. So yes, the thing is, the Steam, so you'll have more room to put your games on there. Steam is a digital distribution system where once you've bought the game, you've got the game. So there's no real advantage over it because you could delete the game and you could still re-download it at any point.
But at the same time, just counterpoint, is Windows still has a lot of cruft in it, just stuff slowing down, bogging down your system, and a lot of potential for malware and viruses and bootloggers and all this other random shit. If Steam can get the performance level of a Steam Box up comparable to what a comparable Windows machine is with the hardware specs, I think then I can see the viability of a Steam Box, because now you can have a potential gaming PC without the potential vulnerabilities and fallbacks of a Windows machine. So I think in that regard, I could see the advantage point of a Steam Box if they get the performance comparable with the Windows box. If that performance is always lagging behind, it has no chance. That's the first thing. If they can get performance up to where it needs to be, I think then it could have a chance. I'm not saying it's going to, take the market by storm.
Right.
But I think they can at least get enough of a foothold to make it viable for Steam to continue the Steam Box. But that also comes down a lot to AMD and NVIDIA. Are they going to actually make the drivers for their video cards, which they haven't done in the past, that are going to drive your Linux kernel at the same performance as Windows? And really, why would AMD and NVIDIA invest the time into that when it's still such a small percentage of gamers?
Then this is the. I'm going to say one more thing about the Steam Box real quick, and that is my other issue with the Steam Box is it mimics a console to a fault, and that fault is you're talking about a closed box system. You're not going to be able to upgrade the Steam Box. In order to upgrade the Steam Box, you have to buy a new Steam Box.
You can't take part. Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
No. That's why I say just stick with the PC.
But with the Steam Box, though, is you can still get to the Linux operating system and do stuff to it.
True, but at the same time, if I get a new game that's trying to run like the next Crisis, I can, and all I really need is a new graphics card. I can get a new graphics card versus buying an entire new Steam Box, because that's one of the big issues. What consoles have is you have set parameters. PCs do not have set parameters because everyone's got a different configuration.
Yep.
So you have to understand that certain games are going to run better on certain computers than other games. But if you're doing Steam Box, which is going to be a closed environment where you're basing everything off of the Steam OS system, which is based on top of a Linux kernel, which I've heard has already caused slight problems with the fact that your game library isn't completely there. So
the problem is because in order for a game to run on Steam OS, it has to run on Linux, and
that library is very, very small because that's the latest one. In comparison to the PC and the Mac.
I wouldn't call it very small. What I would call it is limited at the top. It's more indie and bottom heavy. That's the thing, is you don't have those AAA titles, except for you got like BioShock and a few. You don't have the big names, majority speaking, on. You have you literally have over 1,000 titles that you can get on the Steam Box.
Okay, I understand, but at the same time, I'm not going to try to be an asshole about this, but the vast majority of the games, when you go outside of the AAA status on any platform, is shovelware. You don't want to play it.
Fair enough.
So,
we'll see what happens.
Yes.
We'll see what happens.